the poetry of power and grace like gymnastics. At its best, it is strength combined with beauty. Perfection means years of physical and mental preparation. But in gymnastics, as in any sport, there are no certainties. Even danger lurks as a possibility. An athlete's performance can end in pain. A gymnast's nightmare can vault into reality. But for the best in the world, there is the will to pick up and bounce back. Coming up today on ABC's Wide World of Sports, the celebrations and the sorrows of the World Gymnastics Championships. Rotterdam was a peaceful place, a proud city, full of tradition. But then came the war that would rock the continent. The German army stormed across Europe. Hitler was certain his Dutch neighbor would back the Third Reich. But instead, the people of the Netherlands chose to remain neutral. Hitler was enraged, and on May 14, 1940, the Germans bombed Rotterdam, destroying practically the entire city. After the war, the town had to be rebuilt. Now the atmosphere is a contrasting one, as athletes gather together in friendly competition. I'm Becky Dixon, and today we have come to Rotterdam for the World Gymnastics Championships. This afternoon, we will bring you the men's and women's individual competitions. Now this week, as we have watched here at the Ahoy Sports Palace, we have found that there are contrasts among the gymnasts as well, contrasts in style and in technique. And as we have watched the men's and women's all-around and team competitions this week, we have found that there are also some contrasts from the past. Joining me now are our two expert commentators, Gordon Maddox and Kathy Rigby-McCoy.
Yes, Becky, and I think the major contrast here is in the status of the Soviet women. The ladies from Romania, in a resounding upset, defeated the Soviet women for the World Team Championship. And for the first time since 1966, we do not have a Soviet woman as the reigning world all-around champion. And Kathy, does this give us any indication of what we're going to see in the individual events?
Yes, Gordon, and I do think there's another contrast to the past, and that is, even though you win the all-around championship, doesn't necessarily mean you will dominate the individual apparatus competition. In this day and age, rarely will anyone sweep all four individual titles. The competition is really just too tough. Aurelia Dobre of Romania, current all-around world champion, comes into this competition leading only one event, the balance beam. Teammate Danielle Silibash, bronze medalist in the all-around, will be trying to hold on to her lead on the uneven bars. And because of a disappointing loss in the team and all-around competition, the apparatus finals takes on an even greater importance to Elena Shishyanova. This is really her only opportunity to take home the gold for the Soviet Union.
And again, by way of contrast for the men's competition, it's really only one man, Dmitry Bilozerchev. He qualified in 5 of the 6 events and could medal in every one of them.
And the events you'll be seeing today for the women, the vault, balance beam, and floor exercise. For the men, rings, parallel bars, and the high bar. Now this is competition on the individual apparatus. Each event will have its own winner. For the final score, the gymnast's preliminary score is combined with today. Now to the rings, and this is Yuri Korolev from the Soviet Union. He comes into the finals in first place on this apparatus with a score of 9.925.
And prior to this championship, Yuri Korolev won 2 previous world all-around championships, although he was never figured to be the favorite. He just works along with the more spectacular gymnasts, lets them make mistakes, and with his commercial style, keeps coming through and taking home the gold. Now in this event, he has to show strength, which you've just seen with his inverted crosses. He has to swing, but has to show a preponderance of strength. Yuri grew up in Vladimir, a town about 100 miles east of Moscow, where the other great gymnast, Nikolai Andrianov, also lived and trained. And here he is getting set up for his dismount, a layout double flyaway. Oh yes, a very, very nice performance.
25 years old, one of the veterans on this Soviet team. Korolev just refuses to retire from a sport he's all but owned in recent years.
Now watch how nicely he lays in this layout double flyaway. Boy, that's a very good performance.
And the score for Yuri Korolev in the rings, 9.95, being congratulated there by his teammate, Bilozerchev. Moving now to the women is Eugenia Golia from the strong Romanian team. Now, Golia comes into the finals tied with her teammate, Aurelia Dobre, for second place.
And she will be performing a Yurchenko with a full twist. Round up to the board, Beautiful height in the air. Little hop there in the end. That'll cost her about 1/10 of a point. Now, important components to a good vault are speed, timing, angle right off the board. She has to be in the right angle in this handstand position, height, distance, form, and landing. And you can see there is where she hopped. You want to get as much punch off that board and off your shoulders as possible. Right here, you can see she pushes from the shoulder right down the center of that horse, and that's where you want to be.
Golia receives a 9.863 for that vault. This Romanian team, so powerful in all-around competition, looks like they're trying to dominate the individual apparatus as well.
Well, they have to be extremely psyched up right now. Their victory in the all-around and team competition was unprecedented. This is a mental sport. Confidence in an aggressive approach is a requirement for a successful routine or a vault. Now, as I mentioned, they have to do 2 different vaults. This will be a double twisting Yurchenko with a perfect landing. Now, one of the reasons these gymnasts are able to do these double twisting vaults, the more difficult vaults, is because of this approach. Watch this. This round off to the board really allows for greater consistency in hitting the right angle, so you have maximum height, distance, and a good landing.
Golia receives a 9.95 for that final vault. This gives her a total of 19.857. The Romanian should be very happy with that score. She receives congratulations from her teammate Aurelia Dobre. We talked earlier about Dmitry Bilazerchev. In 1983, this young Soviet was crowned all-around champion of the world. Now, this was Dmitry earlier on the pommel horse, and with this performance, he tied for the gold medal with Hungary's Zsolt Borkai.
And Bilazerchev has been a real story. Back in 1983, when he won his first world championship, he was only 16 years old, the youngest in the history of the sport to do that. 2 years later, just before the Montreal World Championships, he crashed his car into a tree, and he literally smashed his left leg, broke it in 42 places. He's had a great deal of reconstructive surgery, and they said he may not even walk again, let alone compete in gymnastics. Here he is, the world all-around champion, and competing for gold medals in 5 of the 6 events. He comes into this event tied for second place with China's Li Ning. Now, he's not so precise. He just has an uncanny ability to adjust. You watch his body as he competes in all the events. His body is just making very minute adjustments all the time. Now, he's in his handstand. He's lowered to the cross. Now, he'll get set up for a dismount. And you think about it. Would you like to do this dismount on 42 fractures? Oh, what an exercise.
Landing on what some might call a bionic leg, the story of Dmitry Bilazerchev's comeback, certainly an intriguing one.
Now watch how high he gets above the rings when he takes his dismount. That's the reason he's able to land it so well.
And Bilazerchev receives a 9.925 for his performance on the rings. This gives him a combined total of 19.825. From the men's all-around champion to the women's, here's the new darling of the sport from Romania, Aurelia Dobre. Earlier, Kathy talked to her.
Aurelia, what motivated you to take up the sport of gymnastics? I saw Nadia Comaneci on television, and I admired her. And I thought someday I'd like to compete in gymnastics. What do you think Nadia will say about your performance here when she sees it? I think Nadia is happy because another Nadia is born.
And today she does take you back to 1976 and the young Romanian who stole all our hearts, Nadia Comaneci. Now, Aurelia came into today's final competition tied for second place with Eugenia Golia.
And her vault, Yurchenko with a full twist, very high, great technique. And it really stands out, that impeccable form. At 4'11" and 88 pounds, she's like a gazelle springing through the air. A round off to the board. Look, no form breaks whatsoever. Her feet are so tightly together, and that's just what the judges want.
A very solid score of 9.925 for Dobre's first vault.
And there is an uncanny resemblance to Nadia, not just physically, but her style and her reserved confidence. Now, her second vault will be Yurchenko in a layout position. A bit of a surprise. You would think that she would select a more difficult vault, but I think she's playing it a bit safe. She wants the consistency because she knows both vaults count. And she wants the best score possible. Here again, it looks so smooth, though. You can see where you're landing. Doesn't move an inch. There you go. What a nice vault.
For her second vault, 9.863 points. This gives Dobre a combined total of 19.844. A lot of team spirit among the Romanians. And coming up, Li Ning, triple gold medalist from 1984, and the Soviet Union's Elena Shushanova. Is Li Ning from the People's Republic of China. Now, after preliminary competition, Li was tied for second place. He needs a perfect 10 to win the gold medal outright on the rings.
Now, Li Ning is working at somewhat of a disadvantage. He badly sprained his ankle earlier in the team competition and could be thinking about that dismount even in the beginning of the routine. And he's been such a central part of the Chinese men's program since they re-entered world competition back in the late 70s. In fact, in the '84 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, he won this event, he won the floor exercise, and he won the pommel horse. He is really a remarkable person. He's an accomplished artist, fine artist in his own right. There's his inverted iron cross. And so far in the individual events, Li Ning has been shut out of a medal position. This is really his only opportunity. Giant swing. Now here comes the dismount. We'll see how he finishes the exercise. Layout double flyaway. Oh, no problem.
And the crowd seems happy that Li Ning has been able to bounce back in spite of his injury.
Well, take a look at this now. Watch how high he gets over the rings. That's the reason he's able to set it in so safely.
He needed a perfect 10 to win the gold. He did not get it, however, but his 9.925 will tie him for second place with Dmitry Bilizerchev. Back to the women's vault. Elena Shushanova from the Soviet Union, and she brings back memories of the 1985 World Championships.
Take a look at this tumbling run. It's called an Arabian 1.5 to a dive roll.
And a pretty good one.
Seen in many of the men's events on the men's floor exercise. Very seldom in women's floor exercise.
We used to hear much more of classical music. Now it's, as in this case, almost playful sort of music.
Once again, it fits their personality when they're that young. And here's her final run, a double back. Watch the power once again, and she nails it, as usual.
And in the end, Elena and her teammate Oksana Omelianchik were crowned co-all-around champions. Coming into today's competition, Shushanova was the sole leader going into the finals of the vault.
She has that explosive power of Mary Lou Retton, and I want to mention her obvious seriousness is consistent with her personality in competition, but I think losing the all-around and team competition has made her hungrier for the gold here. Now here's her Yurchenko with a full twist again. Now watch the power and the angle. So smooth. She barely touches that horse as she comes off. And a little bit of a hop there, that will cost her about 1/10 of a point. So powerful. This round off really gives her the speed, the right angle coming into the horse, but the utmost height and distance. Once again, you can see she's right in the center of that horse. Exactly what she wants.
A 9.913 for that vault, and Elena prepares now for her second.
Now she's going to pull out all the stops here. She is going to perform a Yurchenko with a 1.5 twist. So you're building the speed. Good position on the horse. 1.5 twist. Little step there on the landing, but not bad. It's a more difficult vault because it's kind of a blind landing. You can't really see when you should come out, unlike some of the other vaults. She does fairly well, but that still will cost her about 1/10 of a point.
A 9.9 for Shushanova. This gives her the gold medal. Eugenia Golio wins the silver, and her teammate Aurelia Dobre the bronze. On the rings, Yuri Korolev takes first place, and Dmitry Bilizerchev and Li Ning tie for second. Not all of Rotterdam's beauty and culture was destroyed in World War II. This 18th century windmill still watches over the old port from which the Pilgrims first set sail on a journey that eventually led them to America.